Hey love, it's Sherry. Tonight's letter is from a woman who has spent most of her life standing by the door, always near the exit, always ready to leave first. One midnight tango class and a man named Luca will ask her to do something much braver than dancing, to stay, to be led, and to let go. Just a little. The night I let him lead. Dear Sherry, the night I finally let someone else take the lead. I walked into a dance studio thinking I was just signing up for a class. I had no idea I was really signing up to stop being the woman who always stood by the door, ready to leave before anything even had a chance to begin. I booked the class on a Tuesday afternoon, somewhere between answering work emails and pretending to care about yet another pointless meeting. An advert popped up on my screen, tucked between online shopping and holiday deals. Midnight Tango, beginners welcome, no partner needed. I stared at it far longer than made sense. It had been 8 months since my last relationship ended. 4 years together, finished in the most civilized way possible. 2 mugs of tea on the kitchen table, a conversation that sounded more like a budget review than a heartbreak. We're not happy, are we? No, but we're fine. I don't want fine anymore. So I moved out, found a small flat with white walls and creaky floors, bought a new duvet, a nicer kettle, 2 plants I was determined to keep alive. My calendar was full, my cupboards organized, my life extremely sensible. I went to work, went to Pilates, listened to podcasts about healing and boundaries and self-worth. I journaled, I made lists, I ticked things off, one after another. Nothing was really wrong. And yet, every night I ended up sitting on my sofa with a cup of herbal tea, scrolling, feeling like I was waiting at a departure gate for a flight that had been delayed indefinitely. So when I saw the words midnight and tango in one sentence, something in me flickered. It wasn't even excitement at first, it was a soft, sharp little jolt of fear. What if I actually went? Before my brain could talk me out of it, my finger had already clicked book now. The studio was hidden above a tiny bar just off a side street near the station. I climbed a narrow staircase that smelt faintly of old wood and spilt wine. At the top, a plain door, and behind it, the low thrum of music, bass, violin, something slow and sinuous. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Warmth wrapped around me instantly. The room was long, with polished wooden floors and tall windows fogged slightly by the cool night outside. A wall of mirrors reflected bodies in motion, couples moving close together, hips rolling, legs threading between legs. There was a soft red lamp glowing in one corner, casting everything in a warm, dusky light. I caught sight of myself in the mirror. Black vest top, fitted jeans, hair scraped into a loose bun. Around me, women in light dresses that moved when they did, skirts swirling around bare legs. They all looked softer somehow, less on guard. I felt my shoulders tighten without even thinking about it. A woman in black trousers and a red lipstick glided towards me, dark hair twisted into a neat bun, eyes bright and kind. "You must be Claire," she said, her accent lilting. "First time?" "Yes," I replied, tucking a stray strand of hair behind my ear. It felt like a good idea when I booked it. She smiled. "It still is. We'll take it easy. No partner?" I shook my head. My friend was supposed to come. I lied. She cancelled. "Don't worry," she said, waving a hand. "We always have extra leads. Someone will dance with you. Someone will dance with you." The words landed low in my stomach and stayed there. The extra lead was standing by the wall, half in shadow. I hadn't noticed him at first. He wasn't trying to draw attention to himself. He just existed in a way that made the space seem to rearrange around him. Tall, dark hair pulled back at the nape of his neck, a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, dark trousers, bare feet on the wooden floor. His shoulders were broad, his posture relaxed but grounded, like he knew exactly where he belonged in the world. "Luca," the instructor called. "Can you take Claire tonight? She's new." He turned his head, and for the first time his eyes met mine. It wasn't one of those movie moments where everything slows down. It was quieter than that, but somehow more intense. He walked over, unhurried. He didn't beam or try to charm me. His mouth tilted in the smallest hint of a smile, but his eyes stayed serious. "You dance?" he asked. "Not really," I admitted. "I'm more of the one standing by the door, watching other people live." One of his eyebrows lifted, just a fraction. "We can work with that," he said. "Stand here." It wasn't really a question. It wasn't arrogant either, just assured, like he was used to leading people who didn't quite trust themselves yet. I stepped closer, feeling suddenly aware of every angle of my own body. "Give me your hand," he said. I offered it. His fingers closed around mine, warm, firm, not rough, not hesitant. His other hand came to rest between my shoulder blades, just below my left shoulder. My whole body tensed at once, stomach pulled in, shoulders up, jaw tight. Luca tilted his head slightly. "Don't fight me," he said quietly. "If you're here, let me do the work. You just feel." Something in me bristled. "I don't really like being told what to do," I replied, a bit too sharp. "Good," he said calmly. "Keep that. Just maybe not in your shoulders." His thumb moved in a small, slow circle over the knot of muscle under my skin. "Here," he murmured. "You can let go. You don't have to hold everything together all the time." He had no idea how close he was to the truth. Or maybe he did. The music swelled, low and insistent. "Right," he said softly. "Step back with your right foot. Don't look at your feet. Look at me." Of course, I looked straight down at my shoes. Then, forcing myself, I lifted my gaze. His eyes were steady, dark, focused entirely on me. Not on my body, not on whether I looked good. On me. I took a step back. Too big, too quick. My toe brushed his. "Sorry," I blurted, heat rushing to my cheeks. "Don't apologize for moving," he said, voice still calm. "Ever." The word sank into me like a stone dropped into water, sending ripples in every direction. We tried again. He guided me gently, a small pressure on my back to go this way, a light shift of his chest to invite me that way, fingers adjusting mine when I tried to grip too hard. When I stiffened, his hand softened, giving me space. When I let myself relax, he drew me closer, our bodies aligning a fraction more with each step. It was the strangest thing. I'm used to leading, projects, conversations, plans, crises. I'm the one who checks the trains, carries the emotional weight, remembers everyone's birthdays. But here, in this room with its fogged windows and wooden floor, my only job was to feel where he was taking me and let my body answer. For someone like me, someone who lives in her head, it was terrifying and quietly intoxicating. Half an hour later, my top clung to my back. A strand of hair had escaped completely and stuck to my cheek, and my feet were starting to complain. But my chest felt open, not aching, not clenched, just full. Better, Luca said after another turn, bringing us to a stop with a small, sure shift of his weight. I found myself pressed a little closer to him than before, one hand on his shoulder, his hand still resting between my shoulder blades. I still feel stiff, I muttered, like I'm made of wood. He studied me for a moment. Then you're the most alive piece of wood I've ever danced with, he said. It was ridiculous. I laughed anyway. Properly. The kind of laugh that shakes something loose inside you. The instructor clapped her hands. 5-minute break, she called out. Get some water, then one last song. Make it a good one. Luca let my hand go, but his hand on my back stayed a heartbeat longer, warm, steady. You're doing more than you think, he said quietly. You turned up. That's the hardest bit. I stood by the open window with a plastic cup of water in my hand, letting the cool night air lick at my overheated skin. The street below glistened with leftover rain, headlights smearing into soft streaks. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed, then faded. I caught my reflection in the dark glass, cheeks flushed, hair messy, eyes brighter than they'd been in months. I didn't look controlled, I didn't look professional. I looked alive, a bit undone, but in a good way. I felt him before I heard him. Thinking about running? He asked, his voice low, just over my shoulder. I turned. He was standing close, leaning lightly against the wall, his own cup of water forgotten in his hand. I'm not running, I said automatically. He glanced down. I realized I was standing right by the door. He smiled just a little. Of course you're not, he said. You just like to know where the exit is. I huffed out a breath that was almost a laugh. It's a habit, I admitted. If you're always ready to leave first, you can't be the one left. He didn't say anything for a moment. That sounds exhausting, he said at last, very softly. It wasn't pity. It was recognition. And for some reason, that made my throat tighten more than any sad song ever had. When the break ended, there were fewer people left. A couple of couples had slipped out quietly. The room felt more spacious, the air cooler. The instructor dimmed the main lights, leaving only the warm glow of the side lamps. Last song, she called. Let it be the one you remember. Luca walked back towards me, unhurried as ever. He stopped in front of me and held out his hand. Ready? He asked. I looked at his hand, at my own fingers, still slightly unsteady from the effort, the nerves, the something else. I thought of every time I'd chosen the safe option, every time I'd stayed in a fine relationship, every time I'd left early just in case. For once, I didn't want to be the woman by the door. I stepped forward and placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine, warm and sure. His other hand slid back to that familiar place between my shoulder blades, only this time a little lower, inviting me closer. I didn't pull away. The music began, slower now, deeper, the kind of tango that feels less like dancing and more like breathing with someone else's body. Don't think, he murmured. Just breathe. I've got you. So I did. I let my eyes soften, let my shoulders drop, let my body listen. Step back, side, turn. The movements weren't perfect, I stumbled once, then a second time. It didn't matter. Every time I got it wrong, he simply caught me more firmly and brought me back into the rhythm. No commentary, no eye-rolling, no smug, "See, I told you." At some point I felt his hand on my back stop guiding me. "Your turn," he whispered. "You know the way now." I realized he wasn't just talking about the steps. I opened my eyes. The room around us was quiet, apart from the music. Only a few couples left. Shadows drifting across the walls. The red light in the corner pulsing softly. I moved. Not the way I'd been taught, but the way it felt right. I led a small step to the side, then another, a little bolder this time. He followed, without hesitation, as if he truly trusted that I knew what I was doing. It was new. To be with a man who knew how to lead and still knew how to let himself be led. The music slowed even more. We came to a stop, almost against the mirror. I could feel the cool glass at my back and the warmth of his body in front of me, as if I were standing exactly on the line between two worlds. I looked into his eyes. There was no question in them, nothing like, "May I?" He didn't need to ask. My whole body was the answer. I reached for the collar of his shirt, curled my fingers into the fabric, and gently pulled him towards me. Our lips met. The kiss wasn't shy, but it wasn't pushy either. It was steady, unhurried, deep, like finally taking a step in the direction you've secretly wanted to go all along. I could feel his breath mingling with mine. His hand on my back drew me closer, but there was no rush in it, more a quiet promise. "I'm here, if you want this." And I did. That was enough. When the music faded, we were still standing close, our foreheads resting together, our breathing slowly returning to a calmer rhythm. I was the one who stepped back first, not out of fear, out of the quiet certainty that this time I was the one who decided when it was enough. "Thank you," I said softly, "for not letting me hide by the door." He smiled then, a real smile that reached his eyes. "Thank you," he replied, "for finally stepping away from it." We walked out into the street together, just after 1 in the morning. The air was cool and fresh, carrying the scent of wet pavement and a city finally starting to tire. I held my shoes in my hand, walking barefoot along the pavement, feeling every tiny stone through the thin fabric of my tights. We stopped at the corner. "This is me," I said, nodding towards the entrance to the station. "Of course it is," he said softly, "right by the exit." I rolled my eyes, but I was smiling. "Maybe next time," I said. "I'll try standing in the middle of the room." "Do that," he replied. "The middle is where the music finds you." We stood there for a moment, the city moving around us. Taxis, distant laughter, the whoosh of a late train somewhere below. I could have asked for his number. He could have offered it. Neither of us did. Instead, he leant in and kissed me once on the cheek, warm, slow, just a fraction longer than politeness would ever require. "Good night, Claire," he said quietly. "Don't go back to fine." "I won't," I answered. And for the first time in months, I believed myself. I never saw him again. I went back to the studio, week after week, danced with other partners, let new hands rest on my back, new arms guide me across that same wooden floor. No one moved exactly like him. But that stopped being the point. Because that night, Sherry, I realized it wasn't Luca who had changed me. It was the moment I chose not to stand by the door, the second I stepped forward, put my hand in his, and decided to stay. The instant I stopped planning my escape and started listening to my own body instead. Now, when I walk into a room and see someone I'm drawn to, I still notice where the exits are. That part of me doesn't disappear overnight, but I don't stand pressed against them anymore. I pause, I breathe, I listen. Not to the noise in my head, but to the quiet pull somewhere low in my chest. And if that pull says, stay, I take one small step closer to the middle of the room. The night I let him lead, I thought I was just learning to dance. But really, I was learning something else, that letting go just a little doesn't make me weak. Sometimes it's the bravest yes I'll ever say. Best wishes, C. If you've been the one standing by the door, planning your exit instead of feeling the music, maybe Claire's night is your little nudge, my love. You don't have to throw yourself into someone's arms. Sometimes the bravest thing is just to stay in the room for one more song. If you've had your own night when you finally let someone lead or let yourself stay, you can always write to me. I'm Sherry Pearl. This is Dust of Passion Stories, and I'll be here, somewhere a little closer to the middle of the room, when you're ready to join me.